national, now you got international law violation. You got actual murder. But you murder an Asiatic that's calling themselves Smith, Jones, and Johnson, and they're clearly of Asiatic, African blood, that's called a civil rights violation. They can try to stomp you to China. It's not called acute or extreme assault. It's called a civil rights violation. You must understand why it's called that. It's because it's listed under artificial corporate person. It's not listed as a human being. And so if you don't know that, understand those instruments that you carry that you don't object to establishes that from a law position in the society. So the other thing that you want to do when you're dealing with these instruments, and I know it's going to take time for many Asiatics to get out of it. So what you want to learn to do is live within the contract. And so when you get these instruments, you're going to sign on it UCC 1-207, write it down. And you're going to get little stamps made. Little stamps made so that you can just stamp it wherever you're asked to sign your name. And I suggest you do that first before you sign your name. Don't sign your name and then do your UCC. Do the UCC first, then sign your name through it. Because they'll also lift your signature and put on another instrument. UCC 1-207. It's not. Can you stand up? Give them the rest of the information.
You always want to put without prejudice before that.
Yes.
Because you have to make an explicit reservation of your rights. So if you just put one UCC by itself, they'll try to challenge you in court over that. So put without prejudice, UCC 1-207 and UCC 1-103.
Yes. Islam.
That's every time you sign your name.
Let me suggest to you this, and everyone, please keep this in mind. This is your civic responsibility. Because one of the things that we're doing is teaching our people to be better citizens. Being part and parcel of this said government, we are to live the life accordingly. We are enforcing the law. We are not violating law. You must understand that. And so we are teaching you the jurisprudence that governs those civic affairs. Some of it you're familiar with, some of it you're not. The damage has been that you have been assuming that people who have been governing are legitimate. And so you've looked at yourself from a subordinate position. No, we are the government. They are servants. They've been racketeering for quite some time, and we have every intention to bring it to a screeching halt. But we can't unless we or you, the people, decide that you want to stop being niggers. And that you want to be responsible and participate in those things which are necessary to make this a better environment for the people, starting with yourself and your offspring. So you must be clear on that. You're being taught to not argue, quote unquote, your constitutional rights. What you're going to argue is the law. So when you say, I want my constitutional rights, that's a wrong statement, so never say that. The Constitution is in place to secure your rights. The Constitution is the law of the land to secure your rights. So don't say, I'm commanding my constitutional rights, because it doesn't work like that. I'm commanding that you claim it to authority in office, uphold your oath to uphold the Constitution, and secure my pre-existing rights, servant. I command that you observe the law, because you ain't giving me nothing. You're getting paid to secure the rights. But also understand again, these Asiatics claim to be Smith, Jones, and Johnson don't have right at law. So again, you can use the UCCs to kind of put a little bit of brakes on them, although they can really override it because it really don't apply to you exactly, really. But what happens is, it kind of puts them on the spot because to continue to abuse you, they expose more. So it's sort of like, not exactly an ace in the hole, but it's a good king or queen. Do you understand what I'm saying? So you can still use it, but you're still colored You're still colored by law. So you can kind of paint them in a corner, but come push and shove, if it's something big, you're going to lose because they're not going to acknowledge it. You know, but you kind of put them on the spot because now you're showing the cards that they're working with, and you weren't supposed to know this. It's on.
I got this on. I got a question. If I'm transacting all my business in my corrected name, do I still need to put...
In your free national, you doggone right.
I still need to put...
Yes, because remember, the U.S. Democracy Corporation is really an organized criminals. They're well organized. And they're colored government. They're colored people. All right? And you already know that they're dealing with admiralty and maritime law, which is why all their courts will have the yellow fringe around the trading banner. And you must understand, and also that red, white, and blue is not the national flag, so don't confuse it with the national flag. Are you aware of that? Everyone aware of that? I know a lot of people have been told that that's the national flag. It's not. It's a flag of amity. Write this down. A-M-I-T-Y. Amity and commerce. And it is a legitimate flag of amity and commerce. It is illegitimate if represented as a national flag. The matching flag with that which would confer some sovereignty to the nation would be the continental flag. And as a red flag with a white canton with a green cedar tree in it. They also call it the Bunker Hill flag. And then the sovereign flag would be the red flag with a 5-pointed green star in the center. Morocco, because that's where you are. All right? So when you are in a courtroom or you're dealing with them on any level and they start looking at the amity and commerce flag and talking about that's the national flag, they're lying. But that does not mean that that flag is illegitimate. It's not illegitimate. It's not what you thought it was. And you must be clear on what it is. That's not a national flag. Islam.
Islam. When you're dealing with the corporations,
because that's what you're dealing with, yes.
And you filed suit, do you deal with them on the state or the federal level?
Always federal. And this is, and again, in due time, we're in the future, we're going to put out literature, and with the good brothers doing the paper and everything, we're going to be putting out articles to give you information to correct your status in many areas. And we're working with the Moorish Science Temple of America on a higher level. They're raising the octave to do a lot of things in the community to fix a lot of those problems that were supposed to be done before. But because of the usual thing that the government always does, has infiltrators and sellouts, there have been certain problems. So don't look at certain negatives that you see as being across the board, because everybody's not a sellout. But you must understand what that organization was for too. It was to take over the work that was to be done in the Freedmen's Bureau, which was closed in 1870, where you were to be colonized back on your land between the Allegheny and the Rocky Mountains, and you deal with the 1330 parallel issue, etc., etc. And but of course, you know, with the maintenance of the Negro brands, and then the Asiatics keeping the European family names, that knocked that out the box. And then they killed Lincoln so that the other information couldn't be expended to you, because actually the Emancipation Proclamation dealt with corporations, or the transfer of the slaves from the corporate families to the corporate state. It didn't free you. Don't misunderstand that. It means a transfer. And so our people think that the Emancipation Proclamation was a document of freedom, and there was a document of transfer of responsibility for the cares of the property. No different than if we all get together, you know, because we got the burden of doing business as individual units, and we decide to incorporate, and then we have a corporation that takes care of those affairs. Well, that's what the corporate states have done for the plantations. Are we clear on that? So remember that when you say, you know, state of New Jersey and state of Pennsylvania, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and stuff like that, that you're actually talking about corporations. Never think of them as the land. Are we clear? I know most of you know this, but those who don't, get very clear in your brain and in your mind, whenever you start talking about New Jersey,